Hi everyone, welcome back to OC Avery today for episode 12 of Breeding British Birds. Coming up in today's episode, one of the most popular British finches that can be kept by people is starting to breed here at OC Avery. We've got some fabulous finches to look at that we've bred so far this season, and sadly we've got some very disappointing news to let you know as well. We've had a fantastic season with all the canaries. They've really carried the season so far. We've rung about 70 to 80 of them and we're only on the second round now. Now, some of them we will let go for a third round, some of them we won't. So we're going to have to see where they're at in a few weeks' time. But we've got absolutely loads of them and all sorts going off. Here we've got some crested feeder chicks. We've actually got two that are crested, two that aren't, and they're actually quite interesting to look at. These are all very dark birds with very few lighter coloured feathers, and they're from the second round, but the siblings to these that are from the first round have actually got a lot of lighter feathers, and it's interesting to see how we've had a round of lighter birds off the pair and then a round of much darker birds off the pair. We've got some more feeder canary crossbred feeders down here, some whites and some yellows. We've got some frill chicks. If you remember, we lost a frill hen on the nest a few weeks ago. The eggs went cold. Well, some of them hatched under a pair of new colours. Those frills are doing fantastic. We've rung them now. We've got a number of young Rasa canaries doing very well as well. Most of them looking to jump the nest over this weekend. So great news from those guys. We've got some crossbreds over in the far corner. 5 of them, or 4 crossbreds, 1 red factor, that are being reared superbly. So the canaries have absolutely carried this season for us so far, and I'm really hoping that we'll get a good success out of this second round. We'll get a number of them weaned off. Now, there's only one thing that with the canaries has been a little bit disappointing, is that they've been plucking the youngsters, a few of them, and this is something that's not the first time this has happened. We've got a pair of feeders down here that have plucked all their youngsters, and I don't really know why. They did it in the first round and they also did it last breeding season, so might be something I just need to keep an eye on. I will give the hen, of course, some more nesting material to try and encourage her not to pluck the feathers, but there's not always a lot I can do about it. And the same for a pair of Rasas. They've plucked the chicks and I don't really know why, but the chicks are healthy and they are being fed fine. They just look quite scruffy, to be honest. After last week's episode, the Redpolls looked really promising until a few days ago. All that hope came crashing back down, as it always does with breeding native birds, because it's just not very easy, it's not straightforward. One thing can go really well and something can go a disaster, and that's exactly what's happened. Well, we're going to start on a bit of a positive note, is actually that this pair here. This pair had 5 clear eggs, or 4 clear eggs. 1 actually did hatch. She didn't rear it because she only had 1, sadly. Well, they've backed down on 5 eggs now. All of them are full and they're due in a few days' time. So I'm really hoping, fingers crossed, all goes well and we get something off this pair. Some very good news, actually, is that this pair that were the first pair in April to build the nests have finally come to maturity and laid. She's now sat on 4 eggs, which I'm really hoping are full because I could do with breeding off both of them because of the bloodlines. But she's been sat a few days now and she's been doing really well. She's not been getting off the nest particularly much or very easily, so good news there. Now down to the bad news then, shall we? Well, this pair in the top corner, they had 5 clear eggs the last round. They had some chicks previously and the other eggs were clear because I think it was rearing the chicks at the same time as laying. Well, I found the hen this morning after she'd finally built up. She's gone to lay the first egg and I found her on the floor, huddled, not looking very well. I picked her up and she'd got egg bound, and sadly, pretty quickly, within 20 minutes, she'd passed away. So I'm absolutely gutted about that because they're a lovely pair of birds, a lovely hen, and she's passed away egg bound. My normal remedies didn't work, which is such a shame. But hey, that's bird keeping. It's never straightforward. And then down to the 2 pairs down here. They had 6 chicks between the 2 nests, 3 in each, 5 Redpolls, 1 linnet. Well, for this pair here, their chicks finally stopped being thrown out the nest after a few days. The parents were rearing them well, so it came time to ring those chicks with the bee rings from the British Bird Council. I put the rings on them, and then 12 hours later, in that morning, that following morning, I found all the chicks on the floor, dead cold. And I'm absolutely gutted about that, to be honest. It's the first time I've had redpolls actually throw the chicks out the nest because of rings, and I've been breeding them 4 or 5 seasons now. It's never happened before until now. So honestly, absolutely gutted about that, but you know, I guess telltale signs were there that they might have done it. I could have covered up the rings, but then again, sometimes I've done that and they've chewed it, and it's really difficult. So I'm gutted, but we're just going to have to hope maybe they'll go back down for another round, and I'll have to try and maybe wrap the rings this next round. And then for the pair at the bottom, we had some thunder and lightning a few days ago, and those chicks were a bit smaller. They couldn't regulate their temperature. They were about 3 days old at the time. Bit of bad weather, really quite loud thunder over the top of the bird room, and the hen come off the nest, and I found all 3 of them cold in the bottom of the nest as well. So really upsetting times with the redpolls. That's bird keep, and I'm just going to have to hope that maybe this last month of the breeding season we'll get something off them. Now, that popular pair of birds I was telling you about at the start of this video that have finally started breeding, that is the native goldfinches. Now, we've had no success at all with them this breeding season. When they were in the bird room, they was in a cage and they wouldn't even look at the nesting material. But all that changed when we brought them out here into the flights. There originally was a Greenfinch crossbill hybrid pair. In the end flight, we switched them with that native Goldie pair, and it's worked. The nest site at the front now has a little nesting that contains, I've seen 4, there could be 5 native goldfinch eggs, and this is really exciting because it's the first time I've ever bred native goldies. I've had Siberians, I've had them on eggs, I've had chicks, haven't successfully got the chicks to get rid and fledge and everything like that. But these now are on eggs. Now, it's a young hen and I haven't yet seen her sit the eggs. However, she only laid the 4th or the 5th one yesterday, so there is of course still time. If we need to, they can go under canaries. We've got a pair of rasers and a pair of red factors that are available in the bird room should I need to foster those eggs out. But I'm really hoping they'll parent rear, because ideally that's what we want all of our birds to be doing. My only concern is whether the eggs will actually be full. And the reason I say this is because they were a little bit of a last minute pickup, and the pair were brother and sister that we picked up, both youngsters. The cockbird, which is the brother, is inside with a redpoll. The hen, which is the sister, is outside here. We've put her with a 4-year-old goldfinch cock. Now, this is a proven cockbird I had off a friend. However, it's a 4-year-old bird. Is it fit enough? Is it going to fill the eggs? I don't know. So it was a last minute pick up, that particular bird, because otherwise I just wouldn't have had a cockbird to breed her with. So we're going to have to see what happens. I'm just really keeping my fingers crossed that those eggs will be full, as it would be fantastic if we could get some young goldfinches. Now, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, of course, but that's my job, and I want to give you guys a realistic view of what it's like breeding native birds, because it just isn't straightforward. There's always those upsets, but it makes it all that more rewarding when you do successfully breed them. So there's a reason that we're in front of 2 sets of flights, the bramble finches and the twites. And that's because both sets of birds, after a really good week last week, when we've changed stuff and they've both gone to nest, they've all got clear eggs. And especially the brambles, I'm absolutely gutted, because they only have 1 set of eggs, maybe 2 at a push a year, and that's their first clutch here. We've been waiting such a long time, and the eggs are clear. So they've got 3 eggs, all of them are clear. I've candled them. They've been sat 8 or 9 days now, and I am obviously really, really gutted about that. Genuinely, I might not show it on camera, but I really am. And the same goes for the twites. We introduced another cockbird, so there's 2 cockbirds in there to cover that 1 hen. And to candle the 5 eggs and find all of them clear is just really upsetting, because you have to ask, how much more can you do? And sometimes you can't. That's birds. I give them all the nice food. I give them all sort of egg food, germinated seed, live food, everything like that. They've got a nice big flight cage. They've got cover in there. The hen's happy and content on a nest site. There's 2 cockbirds, so she can choose now. Both of them can mate with her, and it's clear eggs again. So I genuinely don't know quite where we go from here with the twites. maybe we just let them go again and hope. I'll put some fertility vitamins maybe in the water and we'll see what happens. But I'm generally out of answers at this moment in time for what I can do. But just got to keep going, don't give up, and we will succeed. I guarantee you we will succeed with them, whether it be this season, next season, or the season after. We will have some baby twites, we will have some baby bramble finches. It just might not be this season because they're quite hard birds to breed, as you can see. Now let's not dwell on that sadness because we've got some very exciting news come from our Siskin mules. Well, they've been stars this season, they've produced as young pretty much every month and have not really put a foot wrong from what we expected. And the yellow dimorphic hen in that trio had hatched 3 youngsters about 2 weeks ago. I wasn't originally sure what colours those youngsters were because they didn't hatch with the red eyes that you would expect of a cinnamon, but they have since feathered out and they are all definitely cinnamons, which means that they are all hens. However, one of the chicks is particularly interesting looking because it's one that I've never seen a Siskin mule like before. So you can see here, this is a variegated brown Siskin mule, and it's a lot more variegated than any of the others we've produced from this pairing. They've usually got clear tails, but this one has got a clear headband, it's got clear areas around the eyes and around the beak, it's got half clear feathers, so on the flights, it's got a clear tail and it's got a clear chest. So it's a very sort of heavily variegated bird, I think you would class it as. And I've never seen a Siskin mule like it, but it looks awfully interesting, very different to what I would normally expect. And this is exactly why we did this trio, is to produce things that we didn't expect. And that's exactly smashed my expectations. So some fantastic looking little Siskin mules there. And we've also got one more. Turns out one of the eggs that was under the frilled canary hen that died was a Siskin mule egg. I knew one of them was, I just wasn't sure which one. And that egg hatched and has now got a chick that has jumped the nest. And this is a little cinnamon, again, Siskin mule, bred off the clear cinnamon hen this time. And I believe it could be a cockbird, but it's definitely a yellow feathered or an intensive feathered brown Siskin mule. So a really beautiful looking youngster that I'm just hoping survives to get weaned, molts out for us, and we'll see what it looks like after the molt. Finally, let's take a look at the European Greenfinches and how they've been getting on this past week. Well, we've got the ups and downs, of course, as we've had all season with them. The pair in flight 5, to begin with, really good news. Their 3 youngsters that jumped the nest about 3 or 4 weeks ago have been successfully weaned off with the baycocks, and they're now in the young bird room with the rest of the young greenies that we've bred this year, and they're completely self-sufficient. They're doing really well. Well, the same for the pair has a bit of bad news. They had 5 eggs, 4 full, 1 clear. The eggs hatched and both parents were rearing them and doing an excellent job for 3 days until we had a bad thunderstorm quite early one night, about 10 or 11 p.m. in the darkness. There was obviously some very loud bangs from the thunder. The hen must have come off the nest, and the following morning I found the 4 chicks all stone cold with their crops full in the nest. So they'd obviously, got too cold. They couldn't regulate the temperature. I tried to bring them round in my hand to see if I could get anything out of them, and sadly, to no success. So we've lost 4 chicks even from that nest, which is a shame, but they might go back down. And if they are in condition, I will let them do so. For the pair in flight 4, their 3 chicks they've been rearing over the past 2 weeks are now actually on the floor next to the door of this flight. They jumped about 48 hours ago, and they're doing absolutely brilliantly so far. They've started to drink out of the bowl actually on the floor, which is a little bit early for them, but I'm happy for them to do it. And I've also put the egg food down there as well, so it means that the parents are going to feed them that bit more rather than flying up and down. I don't want the parents to get tired of feeding them because that's obviously a recipe for disaster. The pair in flight 3 have built a freestanding nest, but I don't know if there's any eggs in it because I haven't been in to check. And the pair in flight 2, their eggs were clear and they've started rebuilding at the back, but I don't know if they're going to do anything. For the 2 pairs we've got inside, well, we've got a number of chicks being fostered under some canaries that we saw. They're about 2 weeks old now. They've just jumped the nest and they're looking really good. And finally, the pair in the aluminium flight cage. Their chicks jumped the nest about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks ago, and they've started to pick up a little bit of egg food by themselves. So they're on the way to being self-sufficient. So we'll give them another week or so, and I think they'll be ready to rein off very soon as well. So that's all we've got time for today in episode 12 of Breeding British Birds. I really hope you've enjoyed today's episode, seeing all the ups and downs of bird keeping. Of course, there's very heartbreaking things and there's very exciting things. So if you'd like to see more from OC Avery, please make sure to subscribe down below so you don't miss any more future content. If you enjoyed it, make sure to smash a like on it. That would be very much appreciated. And make sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook for daily updates and behind the scenes footage of all of our birds. Now, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.